The following program is a production of KSPS Public Television and is made possible by the Friends of Seven.
In our modern world, large-scale medical and human service centers loom over the landscape. But many of these centers had humble beginnings, started long ago by small groups of women who used their faith and inner strength to overcome great odds and bring help to those in need. Now, modern women continue to bring help and comfort to others in many parts of the world. The story of these Providence women on the frontier is next. In the Radiation Oncology Department in Spokane Sacred Heart Medical Center, lasers, video monitors, and computers are commonplace. But equally important is the old-fashioned, human-delivered, tender, loving care that accompanies the technology. This 21st century blending of computers and compassion began in the mid-19th century with a hearty, selfless group of women called the Sisters of Providence. The sisters dedicate themselves to serving those who are poor and in need of care. It's a mission that began with one very special woman. Emilie Tavernier was born on February 19, 1800, in Montreal, Quebec, in Canada. She was the youngest of a large family.
As a very small child, even before her mother died, she had indicated a great love for and a sensitivity for poor persons. There were many poor people in the city of Montreal.
Montreal was a troubled city. People were pouring in from the countryside, desperately trying to find work. Ships arrived carrying waves of immigrants, bringing epidemics of typhus and cholera. Emilie lost 2 of her brothers and both of her parents to disease. Eventually, Emilie grew to become a lovely young woman. At age 19, she made her debut to society, and she kept her desire to help the poor and unfortunate people of Montreal.
She didn't stay home. She was not a woman who was inside her house and blind to what was going on in the lives of other persons. And she and other women like her actually organized the city of Montreal to do charitable works. We know that they divided the city into 4 quarters, and they organized soup kitchens in each of those 4 sections of the city. Emilie Gamelin herself was in charge of one of those. So you get a sense of some women who were pretty aware of what was going on and knew how to organize and accomplish things.
At age 23, Emilie married Jean-Baptiste Gamelin, a wealthy man who was also known for his charity. While working with her husband in his business, Emilie happily tended to her family and charitable works. She gave birth to 3 sons. 2 died in infancy. Then tragedy struck again when Emilie's husband died just a few years after their marriage. Emilie's comfort was in her remaining son. He died at age 2.5.
So this was a woman who had lost, in 5 years, had married, had 3 children, 3 sons. Her husband, a very active, dynamic partnership with him, and in 5 years they were all gone. And she was 28 years old.
Emilie sought help from her spiritual advisor at the Church of Notre Dame. He suggested that she pray to Mary, the mother of Jesus, who had also known the pain of losing a son. Emilie was inspired to expand her charitable efforts. Along with some of her associates, Emilie founded the Ladies of Charity, who provided care for the elderly, homeless, orphans, sick, and impoverished.
We see her now, a young woman of 28, 29 years old, becoming extremely active. She moved out into the city. She went to her relatives and her friends. She pointed out to them the needs in the city. And one of the first things she noticed were that there were old women, widows, who had no place to go, who were literally homeless and dying of starvation. And she could not do something. She sold articles from her home. She sold her personal articles, and she used her own resources, and she was very good at tapping into the resources of her friends. She was a woman of upper middle class in Montreal, and she was not at all shy in going to her women friends and their husbands and asking for money. So one of the first things she actually did concretely was to open a shelter for elderly women.
Ignatius Bourget became Bishop of Montreal in 1840. Knowing of Emilie and the Ladies of Charity, Bishop Bourget wanted to assure the permanence of their work. He sought to bring an order of sisters called the Daughters of Charity from France to Montreal to carry on the charitable works. Realizing that the new sisters would need a large building in which to live and carry out their ministry, Emilie, Bishop Bourget, and the Ladies of Charity raised funds to purchase land on St. Catherine Street in downtown Montreal and to build the Asile of Providence. A public park called Place Emilie Gamelin now marks the location of the original asile. During the construction of the asile, Bishop Bourget learned that the Daughters of Charity would not be able to come from France, but he didn't give up. He decided to establish his own order of sisters. 7 women joined the religious community with a priest determining their daily activities and their formation as religious women. No longer directly responsible for overseeing the charitable works she had established, Emilie was uncertain about her future role in these ministries and torn to know what God's will was for her. After an hour of prayer with Bishop Bourget, she decided to become a sister herself. She replaced one of the novices who left and became the 7th member of the young community.
Immediately after the profession, they elected her their superior.
Emilie's prayers were answered, and she was now Mother Emilie Gamelin of the Sisters of Providence. During those early years, a young lady named Esther Paraso wanted to join the Sisters of Providence. Esther's father brought her to the sisters and gave this introduction to Mother Gamelin.
Madame, I bring you my daughter Esther, who wishes to dedicate herself to religious life. She is 20 years old, and for some time she has prayed with her family for enlightenment. It is a great sacrifice for me to part with Esther, but if you will accept her into your company, you will find her able to give you valuable assistance. She has had what education her mother and I could give her at home and at school. She can read and write and figure accurately. She can cook and sew and spin and do all manner of housework well. She has learned carpentry from me and can handle tools as well as I can. Moreover, she can plan and supervise the work of others, and I assure you, Madame, she will someday make a very good superior.
Esther was accepted into the Sisters of Providence, where she became Sister Joseph and began working alongside Mother Gamelin.
She worked as a very close companion to Mother Gamelin and really considered her very much of a maternal figure. So she was a mentor and a guide. And she ended up, all of the time that she was in Montreal, working side by side with Mother Gamelin at the Asile.
The sisters' work continued in Montreal. In 1851, Mother Gamelin, the foundress of the Sisters of Providence, contracted cholera. In the early morning hours, she awakened Sister Joseph with a cry of pain. Knowing that she was dying, Mother Gamelin requested that she not be given special treatment. Instead, she asked to be taken to the infirmary to receive the same care as others who were stricken with cholera.
Of course, Bishop Bourget came immediately as soon as he got the word, and he was with her when she died.
In 1852, Bishop Blanchette in Vancouver, Washington, requested that sisters come to establish ministries in the Northwest. Sister Joseph requested to go.
She was too valuable to send to the West at that particular time and provided a real continuity in terms of spirit with Mother Gamelin. And so she was resigned. She understood why it was that she could not go. Interestingly enough, that 1852 voyage to the West was aborted because of the gold rush. There was nobody there to receive the sisters.
After a few weeks in Oregon, the first group of sisters, led by Mother Bernarda, turned around to make the long voyage around South America back to Montreal. Along the way, they made an unexpected landing in Valparaiso, Chile.
The legend says that the people of Valparaiso had been praying for a group of religious women to come and care for the orphan children. And when they saw the sisters coming off the ship, they couldn't believe it.
They just take the sister from the ship and take it to a home and give it the orphans. And say, here they are. God sent the sister we need to take care for the orphans. And that was the beginning in Chile.
From that unexpected beginning, the Sisters of Providence established their works in Chile, which continue today. Mother Bernarda brought the spirituality and teachings of Emilie Gamelin to Chile. She established 20 houses of Providence and several schools and orphanages. At age 93, the Chilean government gave her the first-class decoration of merit. And at the time of her death at age 96, Mother Bernarda was still active in her ministries in Chile. Back in Vancouver, Bishop Blanchette made a second request for sisters to come.
Sister Joseph had mentioned many times how in her heart she really wanted the opportunity to serve the Indian people, the Native American people, and that she still would like to go at some point. And so at that time, in 1856, she was chosen not only to go, but to lead the delegation of our sisters to the Oregon Territory. It was all in God's providence that it was 1856 rather than 1852.
As leader of the delegation, Sister Joseph was named Mother Joseph of the Sacred Heart. She and her group made the difficult journey from Montreal to the Northwest, landing at Fort Vancouver, Washington. The sisters were given meager housing, but they didn't mind. They simply got to work.
They visited homes and took care of the sick. They joined forces with other people in the community, which was one of Mother Joseph's gifts.
At first, only 2 sisters spoke English. Mother Joseph and the others spoke only French. But with patience and diligence, they slowly learned to communicate in English. Before long, the sisters had established the first permanent school and hospital in the Northwest. Their ministries soon spread from Vancouver to Puget Sound, then to Walla Walla and into Montana. In 1873, Mother Joseph saw the need for a new building to house the community and works in Fort Vancouver. She went begging for funds for the building and then designed and supervised construction of Providence Academy.
She was never seen without her tools around her waist. And so if she needed to pitch in and help do something, she did. And really quite remarkable for a woman of her time. And you can imagine her in this full habit, this heavy black serge habit, with this tool belt around her and sleeves rolled up, and very much doing what needed to be done.
Her finest and only existing work, Providence Academy, is on the National Register of Historic Places. Mother Joseph traveled around the Northwest, visiting mines, logging camps, and fishing ports to beg for funds for her ministries. At times, her faith and ability to think on her feet helped her escape some dangerous situations.
Some bandits held up the stagecoach. And actually the stagecoach stopped and everybody looked around to see what was going on, and sure enough, there they were with their guns and told everybody to get out of the stagecoach and to throw their bags down, which of course they all did. And as Mother Joseph was getting out of the stagecoach, she told everyone, pray, pray. And they were all standing there, and the robbers were getting ready to go through the bags. And so Mother Joseph said, boy, young man, see that bag over there? And he said, you know, which bag, that black one? She said, oh, no, not that one over there. And so he looked at her, and he looked at it, and he looked at the other guys, and she said, please bring that over to me. And he got it, and he brought it over to her, and she said, God bless you. Thank you very much. And they went through everybody else's things, and they didn't go through Mother Joseph's. And so her $300 that were tucked away in her bag were safe.
Mother Joseph and the sisters continued to travel through Oregon, Washington, and Montana, and into Canada, begging for funds and establishing ministries.
Actually, there were about 30 hospitals, schools, and orphanages that Mother Joseph herself had a hand in building. She was very much respected for being a master builder, but it wasn't just building buildings. As the buildings were being built, she was really building communities.
In 1886, Father Cataldo of the Jesuits asked Mother Joseph to help establish a hospital in the bustling young town of Spokane. Land was purchased along the south side of the Spokane River, and Mother Joseph sketched the overall design of the first Sacred Heart Hospital. Sacred Heart opened its doors in 1887. Bronze sculptures near Spokane's Ag Trade Center mark the approximate location of the original hospital. A newspaper article in the Spokane Falls Review proclaimed that the hospital was one of the most perfect buildings from the point of view of utility ever constructed, and in an artistic sense of great architectural beauty. Sacred Heart Hospital expanded, then moved to its current location south of downtown Spokane, and in 1971, due in large part to the leadership of Sister Peter Claver, the current medical center opened its doors. It remains as the largest medical facility between Seattle and Minneapolis. Mother Joseph also traveled to the Flathead region in Montana to visit sisters who established a school for Native children. On that journey, she and her companions endured another traumatic event.
On that particular adventure, as they were traversing the Rocky Mountains, they had set up camp, and they had a campfire. They had boarded their horses, and they heard a lot of howling of the wolves, and it was very frightening because the wolves traveled in packs, and they knew, the Indian guide knew, that they could attack the horses. And so what they did in order to have a barrier between the wolves and themselves, they had a fire built around this area because the wolves will not cross where the fire is. And they thought that it was very contained, but there was a shifting of the wind. And then all the brush caught fire, and then they were really threatened at that particular point for their own safety. And it was a very, very frightening experience. Fortunately, they were able to contain the fire, and no one was hurt. They lost some of their gear and all, but they were saved from the fire, and the wolves didn't bother them anymore.
As she neared the end of her life, Mother Joseph continued to direct the construction of new hospitals and orphanages. She died in Vancouver on January 19, 1902, leaving a legacy of lives changed by her loving attention. Mother Joseph's contributions to the West continue to be recognized today. Along with Marcus Whitman, Mother Joseph represents Washington State in Statuary Hall in Washington, D.C. In 1999, the state legislature proclaimed April 16th, her birthday, as Mother Joseph Day in Washington State. Today, lives are still being changed through the compassionate care provided at more than 75 institutions and ministries sponsored by the Sisters of Providence in the Northwest. In Spokane, Sister of Providence Michelle Holland spearheaded the creation of the Providence Center for Faith and Healing. The center provides a place for patients and family members to get away from the fast-paced world, to go inward and reflect upon their inner resources as they seek health and healing.
Well, it's to help people realize that there's more to health and healing than only science, that there is the faith dimension of it, no matter what one's faith is, that there's that part of us that has to be addressed if we are going to be as healed as we could become.
Today, women in many parts of the world are hearing the call and are joining the Sisters of Providence.
I was really moved by them, by the way they dealt and worked with people. And I also saw the Sisters of Providence in their ministries and in their lives. They had fun, and there was energy and there was life, and that drew me to the community.
There's more women that are entering older, that have had a profession and have raised children and have been married. So there is a change. But we still do have women in their 20s that are looking at our community and wanting to join us.
When I met the Sisters of Providence, I felt at home with them the first time that I met them. And then just reading about their history really helped me to decide that, this was the place for me.
Just as Emilie Gamelin cared for those in need while she was still a laywoman, people today follow in her footsteps by becoming Providence Associates. Providence Associates are individuals who desire to share the mission and spirituality of Providence, but do not seek vowed membership in the religious community.
Our work has always been, as Mother Gamelin, who founded the Sisters of Providence, always been with the poor and the people who are in need. And whatever that need might be, whatever need is put before us that we can do something about, we've tried to do. And I'm amazed at what associates are doing all over the world. They've built clinics, they work with AIDS patients, they work soup kitchens all over the place. They have food banks, they have clothing banks, they teach, they just do amazing things.
There are more than 1,000 Providence Associates worldwide. Lay professionals now operate many of the institutions founded by the Sisters of Providence. So the sisters can look toward new frontiers, and the pioneering spirit of the early sisters is still alive today. Just as Mother Bernarda and Mother Joseph ventured from Montreal to the distant, untamed Northwest, modern-day Sisters of Providence are taking their missionary work to many new places, including the Philippines, El Salvador, Haiti, Egypt, and Cameroon. And just as in the beginning, Providence works in mysterious ways. Long ago, Sisters of Providence, led by Mother Bernarda, unexpectedly landed in Chile, South America, and ultimately set up missions there. Mirta, a modern Sister of Providence from Chile, was surprised to learn that her mission would be in the Northwest.
I was thinking, when I raised my hand to be a missionary, I was thinking in Central America, Peru, Bolivia, poor countries, Africa. But when they say United States, for me was kind of, it cannot be.
Mirta now ministers to Spanish-speaking people in eastern Washington.
Many of our sisters have also worked with the First Nation people in Canada, up in the northern part of Alberta, which is small communities. And so we've had sisters and do have sisters ministering to the people up there. I'd like to see us one day move into the area of China one day to bring Emilie there.
Her legacy, I think, is to be focused, to be creative, to be energetic, and to don't let your ego get in there very much. So it's not about us or about what we're doing, it's about are we able to meet the needs of people that we see in our society today.
We have requests all the time. It's just a matter of how we're going to respond to those requests today.
The sisters of today are striving to meet the needs of others. Their technically advanced facilities are just one aspect of their mission. Now, just as their founders did, the new millennium Sisters of Providence are reaching out to the homeless, to those suffering from poverty and addiction, and responding to the unmet needs of women and children. The sisters are also traveling to foreign lands, rolling up their sleeves and providing personal service to those who need their help. Since their beginning, the Sisters of Providence have become an international organization that has included over 6,000 sisters, and they carry on the legacy of 3 selfless women, Mother Bernarda, Mother Joseph of the Sacred Heart, and Mother Emilie Gamelin. On October 7, 2001, the Roman Catholic Church took a major step in the formal process of naming Emilie Gamelin a saint. Hundreds of sisters and friends of Providence celebrated her beatification, a ceremony that declared her Blessed Emilie Gamelin and acknowledges her as a model for people of faith.